Alrighty. Hello and welcome in to Slime's dungeon. Slime's a very slimy dungeon. Goblins, welcome in. Hi. Good morning. Good hi to you all as well. I just woke up a little bit ago. Downed an energy drink. Got some coffee. Got some water. Got some cucumbers. Oh, you know how it is. I work tonight as well, so we're gonna do like one or two short stories, and then we'll get into some blender or something like that. How are y'all today? What's up? How was the day for you guys? Hopefully not too whack. Hopefully your toesies still exist. If not, then I have taken them. They're mine now. Mm-hmm. Let me open up the thingies. We're not gonna do Dunwich tonight because it's a fucking long one. We'll save that for a certain time. I'll even let you guys know when I'm reading that bad boy, that long ass bad boy. I'm good. 10. Oh, there's so many big ones. Oh my god, there's so many big ones. Why are there so many big ones? Why are there so many big ones? Can you guys tell me why? Can you tell me why? Oh my god, they're so big. All the stories are big right now. Making me feel things. Also, howdy there, pilot. Welcome in. You've might have caught this one unless you're working out or working right now. All right. I think we'll start with the evil clergymen and maybe do the book. Hopefully the music isn't too loud. All right. The evil clergyman, 1933. I was shewn into the attic chamber by a grave, intelligent-looking man, with quiet clothes and an iron-gray beard, who spoke to me in this fashion. Yes, he lived here, but I don't advise you doing anything. Your curiosity makes you irresponsible. We never come here at night, and it's only because of his will that we keep it this way. You know what he did. The abominable society took charge at last, and we don't know where he is buried. There's no way the law or anything else could reach this society. I hope you won't stay till after dark, and I beg you to let that thing on the table. The thing that looks like a matchbox alone. We don't know what it is, but we suspect it has something to do with what he did. We even avoid looking at it very steadily. After a time, the man left me alone in the attic. It was very dingy and dusty, and only primitively furnished, but it had neatness which shewed it was some slum denizen quarters. There were shelves full of theological and classical books and other bookcases containing treatises on magic, Paracelsus, Albertus Magnus, Prometheus, Hermes, Tremadius, Borellus, and others in strange alphabets whose titles I could not decipher. The aperture in the floor to which the crude, steep staircase led. The windows were of bullseye pattern, and the black oak beams bespoke unbelievably antiquity. Plainly, this house was of an old world. I seemed to know where I was, but cannot recall what I knew. Certainly, the town was not London. My impression is of a small seaport. The small object on the table fascinated me intensely. I seemed to know what to do with it, for I drew a pocket electric light of what looked like one out of my pocket and nervously tested its flashes. The light was not white but violet, and seemed less like true light than like some radioactive bombardment. I recall that I did not regard it as some common flashlight. Indeed, it had a common flashlight in another pocket. It was getting dark, and the ancient roofs and the chimney pots outside looked very queer through the bullseye window panes. Finally, I summoned up some courage, and propped the small object on the table against a book, then turned the rays of the peculiar violet light upon it. The light seemed now to be more like a rain or hail of small violet particles, like a continuous beam, as the particles struck the glassy surface at the center of the strange device. They seemed to produce a crackling noise like a sputtering of a vacuum tube through which sparks are passed. The dark glassy surface displayed a pinkish glow, and a vague white shape seemed to be taking form at its center. Then I noticed that I was not alone in the room, and put the ray projector back in my pocket. But the newcomer did not speak, nor did I hear any sound whatever during all the immediately followed moments. Everything was shadowy pantomime, as if seen at the vast distance through intervening haze, although the other hand of the newcomer and all subsequent comers loomed large and close, as if both near and distant, according to some abnormal geometry. The newcomer was a thin, dark man of medium height and attired in the clerical garb of an Anglican church. He was apparently about 30 years old, with a sallow olive complexion and fairly good features, but an abnormally high forehead. His black hair was well cut and neatly brushed. He was clean shaven and thin, blue-chinned with a heavy growth of beard. He wore rimless spectacles with steel bows. His build and low facial features were like other clergymen I had seen, but he had a vastly higher forehead, and was darker and more intelligent looking, almost more subtly and concealingly evil looking, like mine. At the present moment, having just lighted the faint oil lamp, he looked nervous, and before I knew it, was casting all his magical books into a fireplace on the window side of the room, where the wall slanted sharply, which I had not noticed before. The flame devoured the volumes greedily, leaping up in strange colors and emitting indescribably hideous odors as the strangely hieroglyphic leaves and wormy bindings succumbed to the devastating element. All at once I saw that there were others in the room, grave-looking men in clerical costume, one of whom they were bringing a decision of vast import to the first-comer. They seemed to hate and fear him at the same time, and he seemed to return those sentiments. His face set aside into a grim expression, but I could see his right hand shaking as he tried to grip the back of the chair. The bishop pointed to the empty case in the fireplace where the flames had died down, almost a charred, non-committal mass, and seemed filled with a peculiar loathing. The first corner then gave a wry smile and reached out with his left hand toward the small object on the table. Everyone then seemed frightened. The procession of clerics began filing down the steep stairs to the trapdoor in the floor, throwing the bait and making menacing gestures as they left. The bishop was last to go. The first corner now went to the cupboard on the inner side of the table and extracted a coil of rope. Mounting a chair, he attached one of the rope to the hook and in the great exposed central beam of black oak and began to make a noose with the other end. Realizing he was about to hang himself, I started forward to dissuade him or save him. He saw me and ceased his preparations to look at me with a kind of triumph, which puzzled and disturbed me. He slowly stepped down from the chair and began gliding toward me, with a positively wolfish grin on his dark, thin-lipped face. I felt somehow in deadly peril, and drew a peculiar ray projector as a weapon of defense. Why I thought it could help me, I did not know. I turned it on, full in his face, and saw the shallow features glow first with violet and then pinkish light. His expression of vulturous exultation began to be crowded aside by a look of profound fear, which did not, however, wholly displace the exultation. He stopped in his tracks, then, flailing his arms wildly in the air, began to stagger backwards. I saw he was edging toward the open stairwell in the floor, and began to shout a warning, but he did not hear me. In another instant, he had lurched backward through the opening and was lost to view. I found difficulty in moving towards the stairwell, but when I get there, I found no crushed body on the floor below. Instead, there was a clatter of people coming up with lanterns. For the spell of phantasmal silence had broken. I once more heard the sounds and saw figures as normally tridimensional. Something had evidently drawn a crowd to this place. Had there been a noise I had not heard? Presently, two people, simply villagers apparently, farthest in the lead, saw me and stood paralyzed. One of them shrieked loudly and reverberantly, "R, it be Zer again." Then they all turned and fled frantically. All that is but one. When the crowd was gone, I saw that great bearded man who had brought me to this place, standing alone with a lantern. He was gazing at me gaspingly and fascinatingly, but did not seem afraid. Then he began to ascend the stairs and joined me in the attic. He spoke. "So you didn't let it alone?" "I'm sorry. I know what was happened. It happened once before, but the man got frightened and shot himself. You ought not to have made him come back. You know what he wants, but you mustn't get frightened like the other man he got. Something very strangely terrible has happened to you, but it didn't get far enough to hurt your mind and personality. If you'll keep cool and accept the need for making certain radical readjustments in your life, you can keep right on enjoying the world and the fruits of your scholarship, but you can't live here. I don't think you'll wish to go back to London. I'd advise America." No, good luck with that. You mustn't try anything more with that thing. Nothing can be put back now. It would only make matters worse to do, or summon anything. You're not as badly off as you might be, but you must get out of here at once and stay away. You better thank heaven it didn't go further. I'm going to prepare you as bluntly as I can. There's been a certain change in your personal appearance. He always causes that. But in a new country, you can get used to it. There's a mirror up at the other end of the room, and I'm going to take you to it. You'll get a shock, though you'll see nothing repulsive. I was now shaking with a deadly fear, and the bearded man almost had to hold me up as he walked me across the room to the mirror. The faint lamp, i.e., the formerly on the table, not the still fainter lantern he had brought, in his hand. This is what I saw in the glass: a thin, dark man of medium stature, attired in the clerical garb of the Anglican Church, apparently about 30, with the rimless steel-bound glasses, glistening beneath a sallow, olive forehead of abnormal height. It was a silent first-comer who had burned his books. For all the rest of my life, in outward form, I was to be that man. All I can think of is Van Helsing, the animation, and it's the I want to say Irish clerical guy. All I can think of is his face through all that. Like, all I can think of him. So if I'm looking like him, I don't mind. I don't mind. Hold on, that'd be pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna eat a cucumber and have some water before the next one. All right, the next one is called The Book, 1933. My memories are very confused. That is even much doubt to where they begin. For at times they feel appalling, vistas of years stretching behind me, while at other times it seems as if the present moment were an isolated point in grey, formless infinity. I'm not even certain how I'm communicating this message. While I know I'm speaking, I have a vague impression that some strange, perhaps terrible mediation will be needed to bear when I say to the points where I wish to be heard. My identity, too, is bewilderingly cloudy. I seem to have suffered a great shock, perhaps from some utterly monstrous outgrowth of my cycles of unique, incredible experience. These cycles of experience, of course, all stem from that worm-riddled book. I remember when I found it in a dimly lit place near the black oily river, where the mist always swirled. That place was very old, and the ceiling-high shelves full of rotting volumes reached back endlessly through windowless inner rooms of alcoves. There were, besides, great formless heaps of rocks, and books on the floor, and in crude bins, and it was in one of these heaps that I found the thing. I never learned its title, for its early pages were missing, but it fell open towards the end and gave me a glimpse of something which sent my senses reeling. There was a formula, a sort of a list of things to say and do, while I recognized as something black and forbidden, something which I had read of before in furtive paragraphs of mixed abhorrence and fascination, penned by those strange ancient delvers into the universe's guarded secrets, whose decaying texts I loved to absorb. It was a key, a guide, to certain gateways and transitions, of which mystics have dreamed and whispered since the race was young, and which led to freedoms and discoveries beyond the three dimensions and realms of life and matter that we know. Not for the centuries had any man recalled its vital substance or known where to find it, but this book was very old indeed, no printing press, but the hand of some half-crazed monk had traced these ominous Latin phrases and styles of awesome antiquity. I remember how the old man leered and tittered, and made a curious sign with his hands when I bore it away. He had refused to take pay for it, and only long after did I guess why. As I hurried home through those narrow, winding, mist-choked waterfront streets, I had a frightful impression of being stealthily followed by softly padding feet. The century tottering houses on both sides seemed alive with a fresh and morbid malignity, as if some hitherto closed channel of evil understanding had abruptly been opened. I felt that those walls and overhanging gables of mildewed brick and fungus plastered in timber, with fish-eye like diamond-paned windows that leered, could hardly desist from advancing and crushing me. Yet I had read only the last fragment of the blasphemous rune before closing the book and bringing it anyway. I remember how I read that book at last, white-faced and locked in the attic room that I had long devoted to strange searchings. The great house was very still, for I had not gone up till after midnight. I think I had a family then, though the details are very uncertain, and I know there were many servants. Just what the year was, I cannot say, for since I have known many ages and dimensions, and have had all my notions of time dissolved and refashioned. It was by the light of candles that I had read I recall the relentless dripping of the wax, and there were chimes that came every now and then from the distant belfries. I seemed to keep track of those chimes with peculiar intentness, as if I feared to hear some very remote intruding note among them. Then came the first scratching and fumbling at the dormer window that looked like out high above the other roofs of the city. It came as I droned aloud the ninth verse of the primal lay. I knew amidst my shudders what it meant, for he who passes the gateways always wins a shadow. And never again can he be alone. I had a vote, and the book was indeed all I had suspected. That night, I passed the gateway to a vortex of twisted time and vision, and when the morning found me in the attic room, I saw on the walls and shelves and fittings which I had never seen before. Nor could I have ever after see the world as I had known it. Mixed with the present scene was always a little of the past and a little of the future, and every once familiar object loomed alien in the new perspective brought by the widened sight. From then on, I walked in a fantastic dream of unknown and half-known shapes, and with each new gateway crossed, less plainly could I recognize the things of the narrow sphere to which I had so long been bound to. What I saw about me none else saw, and I grew doubly silent and aloof lest I be thought mad. Dogs had a fear of me, for they felt the outside shadow which never left my side. But still I read more, in hidden, forgotten books and scrolls to which my new vision led me, and pushed past through gateways of space and being in life patterns towards the core of the unknown cosmos. I remember the night I made 5 concentric circles of fire on the floor and stood in the innermost one chanting the monstrosity litany and messenger from Tartary had brought. The walls melted away. I was swept in a black wind through gulfs of fathomless gray with the needle-like pinnacles of unknown mountains miles below me. After a while, there was an utter blackness, and then the light of myriad stars forming strange alien constellations. Finally, I saw a green-lit plain far below me, and discerned on the twisted towers of a city built in no fashion I had ever known or read of or dreamed of. As I floated closer to the city, I saw a great square building of stone in the open space, and I felt a hideous fear clutching at me. I screamed and struggled, and after a blankness, I was again in my attic, sprawled flat over the five phosphorescent circles on the floor. In that night's wandering, there were no more of a strangeness than in many former nights' wanderings. But there was more of a terror because I knew I was closer to those outside gulfs and worlds than I had ever been before. Thereafter, I was more cautious with my incantations, for I had no wish to cut off my body from the earth in unknown abysses from which I could never return from. Mm. Mm. Imagine being so silly, just allowing your body to just bamf away. Imagine being so silly that you just allow it. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. Mm-hmm. Well, there's the book. Guys, don't read books, guys. They're dangerous. They could suck the life out of you. Not in a lewd way, but also it could be in a lewd way. Oh. Alright. Alright. So I do work tonight, and I think I should actually pause right now. So I think that'll be it for tonight. No games. I need to get ready. I need those things. I thought I'd have more time, but no. Have a good night. Have a good night. Maybe I'll do a stream after work. Who knows?